But at some point, that ability to say the trade is perfect, but it might not be perfect for me is really key. We don't learn anything from our wins. I'm seeing a resurgence in currency trading. Energies have been fantastic. It's going to change your position size. Sure. 34 EMA wave and grab, time-tested visual tools. I've got to give the market that wiggle that it needs.
Welcome everyone to TradeStation and another edition of our Trader Interview Series. This is Michael Burke. I'm Vice President of Client Training here at TradeStation, and today we're privileged to welcome Raghee Horner. Raghee's a longtime friend of TradeStation. She's a futures and forex trader, educator, and mentor. Raghee is a respected and sought-after speaker at trading events and hosts a daily trading room on simplertrading.com. Raghee, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
So Raghee, we've known each other for a while, but I'm not that clear on your background. So how did you get involved in the markets and trading?
So when I was about 15 or 16, my uncle brought the first laptop and connection to the internet that I'd ever seen. Brought up his brokerage account and started showing me what he was doing in the stock market. And instantly I was amazed and I wanted to have a piece of it, the noise of the AOL dial-up. From there on, I actually opened a business in college where I had a scuba diving excursion company. I'm a dive master. And one of the guys that would rent the boat every Wednesday, every 2 or 3 weeks, ended up being a bond trader. He'd look at the quotes and I was fascinated.
Like a ticker tape?
Like a handheld one.
What was that called? Was that called a Quotron?
I think it was a Quotron. Yeah, so he had that and he was a bond trader. And to and from the sites, about every other Wednesday or so, he'd start teaching me about the markets. So I opened up an account right after I sold that business. And shortly after college, I was pretty much trading full time. The funny thing is, my sophomore year of college, I sat there on the precipice of going to law school. And it dawned on me as I was sitting in this classroom, I'm making more than my professors trading futures at that point. And that's when I realized, how am I going to break my mother's heart? And this is what I'm going to do for a living.
Fantastic. So Raghee, like all traders, we have stories of our really big wins and our really big losses. So can you talk a little bit about maybe that first big win that got you excited and maybe a loss that still haunts you a little bit? You know,
so basically the most important trades that shape me as a trader, we don't learn anything from our wins, right? It's just party and this is great and I'll never lose again. My best trade was also my worst trade, and that was a trade I put on in the British pound. And back then I decided, this was before I knew any better, I decided the market had found a top and I decided to short it. And in short order it cost me about $12,000 per contract. And it probably put me on the verge of blowing my grub stake out. And I call it my best trade because I was about 2 years into my serious trading career when this happened. And I'm grinning even thinking about it. I never took it as seriously as I should have. I think you can be lucky for a really long time. Sometimes the markets will let you be lucky for a really long time. And that was the eye-opener that, number one, I noticed and I owned the mistake. And I probably never put on that dumb a trade again because it really was the best trade I could have put on. If I didn't put that trade on, years later I would have blown up because the market just allowed me to be a lucky trader. And I stopped being a lucky trader that day.
That's so true. That's a great story. You know, Raghee, I know you're primarily a technical trader, and you've developed a number of great trading tools over the years that you use in your trading. What kind of things are you looking at now to find opportunities and generate new trading ideas?
So right now in the trading app store, we actually have 3 of my favorite indicators. It's the 34 EMA wave and grab, the Darvis, which is an automated support and resistance program, and something called propulsion. So I'm a trend trader, and those 3 tools, which I'll tell you what, the first time I saw those indicators in the App Store on that first page, it was surreal because I remember using super charts. I remember thinking back to, as a young trader, going, wow, when I'm a real trader, I'm going to use TradeStation charts. So it was great to see them up there. But as far as the technical analysis that I use, I want a visual footprint of the quality, the propulsion, and the dynamic support and resistance of a trend. And that's what those tools allow me to do. So in terms of the automation that I can now use in the charts, before, there's that, as a technician, I think a lot of technicians really should look themselves in the mirror and say, I'm a precious little snowflake. Because sometimes we fall so in love with the tools that we use and the lines and levels that we've drawn, we forget to take a step back and look at the market psychology and the reaction to our indicators. Those indicators and the automation have certainly, and I've only been using those automated for about 3 years now, And I'm into a 30-year career. That has made a huge, huge shift. I mean, a landslide of a shift in terms of my objective approach. So that's where I tell traders, if you can put objective visual tools on your charts, and really no one does it better. So
That's great. So are you primarily trading the future indexes, or are you trading the entire spectrum of futures?
right now I'm mostly focusing on energies and the indexes and currencies. Every now and then I'll look at softs or meats or grains. I can't say those are my favorites necessarily, but my hands are full with the currencies. I've done a lot less on the forex side, and I'm finding a whole lot more on the currency futures side. The flexibility now, energies have been fantastic, and gotta love the NQ, ES, and YM. So that's pretty much what I focus on day in and day out.
Now, for futures traders, it's really important to understand each of individual contract that you trade, because they're all different. And so to be able to trade everything takes a lot of research and knowledge of each of those individual contracts. So I think for new traders, I think you would agree, it's good to focus on just a few symbols to start and then expand out from there.
I think a sector or a group, like you said, and you're one of the few that said a few, because most people say, well, should they specialize in a symbol? And I'm so glad you said a few, because a lot of times, if you just give someone one thing to look at, they're going to force a trade. Because so many traders are coming into this, what I think is more of an entrepreneurial mindset. They're still thinking about punching the clock, an employee mindset, and they think if they're not doing something, they're in big trouble and they're going to force a trade. So I like focusing on a sector. So what I'm doing right now is looking at, say, heating oil, unleaded, and crude. Or if I'm looking at currencies, we'll look at yen, pound, euro. So look at a handful that definitely can move with each other or will move each other. So I think when we focus like that, it makes it very simple.
So a natural segue to this is, what is your philosophy on money management and risk management for an account, especially for new traders getting started?
I think the best thing that I've ever shared is the concept that you can build a trade according to the support and resistance that's there, recognizing the daily price movement ranges that are the typical historical likelihood, and build it out and still have the ability to say, it's an unaffordable trade for me. It might be perfect, the risk reward might be exactly what you want, but you might step back and say, if I were to take the hit on this trade, sure, I could cheat the stop in. Sure, I could move the stop around to make it affordable, but to trade it the way it's presented on the chart, it might just be unaffordable. And having that is important.
Especially in the futures world, where support and resistance levels are so important. If you lock yourself into a structured stop loss, very often it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to get stopped out. You're not letting the market you're not giving the future the room it needs in order for that trade to play out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so I use some hourly and daily price movement ranges, which look back over 3 months of typical price movement range. So I could look at the S&P between, say, 8 a.m. and 10 and know that my typical price movement range is about 5 to 7 points. So if I'm trading a 60-minute chart or less, I've got to give the market that wiggle that it needs. So again, someone could look at it and say it's going to change your position size, sure, but at some point that ability to say the trade is perfect, but it might not be perfect for me, is really key.
Yeah, I think I completely agree with you. The ability to say this trade just doesn't work for me and move on to the next one is really what separates winners from losers.
Absolutely.
So Raghee, I know you're in a trading room during the day and people can watch you trade and talk about trading, but you do a lot more than that. Tell us what a typical day looks like for you.
Sure. So if I think that we're going to get some decent movement, the forex trader in me never left too far. I'm still up around 4 a.m. And what I'll do now, instead of look at, say, the euro or the yen, I've been trading a lot of NQ, ES, and YM in the morning, which has been fantastic. So I'll do that in the morning, check out what kind of news is out there, and I'll usually key up the trading room. So about 8 a.m., we have a few hundred people in the room that'll watch me trade live, and I'll focus on things like currencies, indices, energies. That's my power band. And we'll do that till about 9:30 when I pass the baton to the next trader. So we have, coverage throughout the day in the room. Then I get to go back and do my thing. And right now, we've been focusing a lot on what we call the TOPS indicators, which are those indicators in the trading app store for the wave, grab, propulsion, Darvis. And we're finding a lot of our options traders and a lot of our ETF and stock traders are looking at what I'm doing on the futures side and saying, this works for everything. And I said, absolutely. So we'll be dedicating a lot more time to this TOPS approach and, helping traders take more subjectivity out of their trades, nice visual, color-coded footprint, and that's been a big part of what consumes my afternoons. And then in the evening, I'm right back at it. So that's what's so great about the extended hours that TradeStation just mentioned, because we have a lot of traders who will trade the Asian session, which, while the price movement's much narrower, is still a good session to keep an eye on, especially nowadays. I got my traders up late watching Bitcoin and the likes, so I said, hey, keep an eye on the NQ, keep an eye on the Nikkei. So it's pretty much all day.
So what you meant by that is that we're offering extended day trading hours, right?
Yes.
So that's really a great feature of TradeStation.
I heard a collective hundreds of people going, yay, in my room.
So are there any special events or projects you're working on?
Other than that series of indicators with tops, we're basically working on, I'm just looking at 2018. I want to get a little bit more involved with some individual stocks and ETFs. And I think currencies are going to be big again next year. And I'm so pleased that I'm seeing the increase in the volume on the CME, and so many of my forex traders that wanted to trade currencies but are just spooked out of that particular space are coming back and saying, I can trade the Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. There's a lot of cross rates coming. So I'm seeing a resurgence in currency trading, but they really want to do it on the future side.
Yeah, I've always been a big advocate of trading currencies in the futures markets. There's just so many benefits to it, and security and depth of market, that it's really the best way to go.
Last year, I saw really the page turn to where I saw the drop off in the Asian session on the currency futures. And I thought, well, it's not happening as much anymore, so I feel really comfortable telling people, go on the future side, you're going to get the liquidity that you need.
So I'm going to put you on the spot now, and before I let you go, there's a lot of aspiring new traders that will be listening to this. What advice can you give to them on getting started?
Find a good charting platform that you can start to find visual objective tools. I think a lot of traders get to very sophisticated types of subjective analysis, which as they mature in their career is great, but find something simple, find something time tested. And I think a lot of traders are surprised to find out that I've been trading the same way from about the age of 16, 17. I just turned 46 this year. And don't think you have to find more complicated tools. And that's where I'm really grateful that when people on board with us over at Simpler, I can put up a TradeStation chart, show them 3 or 4 simple to use, free tools, and really within a day or two, they understand what the market's communicating. So really keep it simple. I know that's so old, but how do you keep it simple? Time-tested visual tools that are automatically plotted on your chart. Not a lot of tweaking, not a lot of subjectivity. I don't even draw trend lines anymore, which I know sounds blasphemous, but I don't need to with the tools that I'm using on the charts now.
That's great advice. Yeah. Well, again, I want to thank Raghee Horner for spending this time with us today. This is really great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. This is great.
You can learn more about Raghee at simplerfutures.com. And I want to thank everyone for listening. Be sure to tune in and subscribe to more of our TradeStation podcasts. And don't forget to visit our website at TradeStation.com to learn more about our outstanding educational resources and online brokerage services. The preceding podcast was for educational purposes only. All of the symbols and trading ideas discussed by the instructors and guests were for educational purposes and not recommendations. Active trading is not suitable for everyone. Options trading carries a high degree of risk. You can find the characteristic and risks of standardized options disclosure and additional disclosures on the TradeStation website.